Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I still remember the way his eyes looked at me that night, intense, filled with something I couldn't quite explain. We had just finished dinner. The lights in the living room were dim, casting soft shadows on the walls. I was still in my white satin robe, casually sipping on the last of my wine, when he walked in with that familiar smirk, the one that always made me nervous and excited at the same time. My husband, Roman. A man of few words but deep emotions. A man who often left me guessing, and somehow, I loved that. "Just trust me," he said, his voice low, steady, but wrapped in a mystery I couldn't ignore. Before I could even ask what he meant, he gently took my hands and tied them with one of his silk ties. My heart raced, not out of fear, but out of curiosity, suspense. This wasn't like him, or maybe I just hadn't seen this side before. He leaned close and whispered, "Tonight, I want to show you what it really means to be mine." He led me into the bedroom, and everything about the way he moved, the calm control, the quiet confidence, felt new and yet familiar. The room was softly lit, the air warm and filled with the scent of lavender. As I stood there, my hands lightly bound, I felt vulnerable, yet safe. It was the kind of vulnerability that comes only with love. Real love. The kind you build over years of shared secrets, morning coffees, and quiet evenings just sitting next to each other without saying a word. But tonight was different. We weren't just husband and wife anymore. We were rediscovering something that had been quietly waiting in the corners of our routine. A deeper intimacy, one that didn't come from words but from trust. From letting go. From surrendering control in the most loving way. And as he began to speak, slowly unraveling a story of why he had planned this night, I realized this wasn't just about romance or passion. This was about healing. About reconnecting. About breaking through something we had both been avoiding for a long time. Just as he leaned in, his lips barely grazing my cheek, he paused. His expression changed, and he said something that stopped my breath. A secret he had kept for years. One that would change the way I saw our love forever. But I'll leave that part for the next episode. What do you think Roman whispered that night? Do you believe trust can be this deep between a husband and wife? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk. Would you let your partner take the lead like this if it meant a new kind of closeness? Let us know in the poll, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next part of this love story. That moment, right after he whispered in my ear and paused, felt like time had stopped. I was looking into his eyes, trying to read what he wasn't saying. There was something there, something hidden behind that calm, confident look. Roman had always been this stable rock in my life. Strong, reliable, the kind of man who rarely showed too much emotion. But now, standing so close to him with my hands tied and heart racing, I could see something different. A flicker of nervousness, maybe even fear. He took a deep breath, like he was preparing to open a door he had kept locked for a long time. We had been married for 7 years. Our life together had been filled with quiet mornings, road trips, laughter over burnt pancakes, and nights falling asleep on the couch watching old movies. But like all couples, we had our seasons. Times when we felt distant. When routine replaced romance. When we loved each other but didn't feel it in the same way. I always thought Roman just needed space, that maybe he was tired or stressed. But now I was starting to wonder, was he carrying something deeper? He walked over to the nightstand and took out a small wooden box I had never seen before. He opened it slowly, his hands shaking just a little. Inside were letters. Old ones. Folded and worn. Some looked untouched for years. My curiosity grew stronger, and so did the knot in my stomach. Why had he kept these? Who were they from? And why now? "I kept these because I thought I might need them one day," he said, almost in a whisper. But I never imagined tonight would be that day. Before I could ask anything, he put the box on the dresser and turned back to me. His hands cupped my face so gently, as if he was afraid I'd disappear. There was so much in his eyes: pain, hope, something unspoken. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but I also didn't want to break the moment. It felt like we were standing at the edge of something bigger than both of us. A truth that had been waiting in the shadows of our love. And just as he opened his mouth to speak again, his phone buzzed from the corner of the room. He looked at it once, and his entire expression changed. He stepped back slightly, his hand falling from my cheek. Everything shifted. Roman didn't say a word. He just stared at his phone, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the tension in his neck. I stepped closer, my hands still gently tied, and asked softly, "Roman, what is it?" He didn't look at me. Instead, he turned the phone face down on the dresser, like whatever message it held didn't belong in this room, in this moment. But I knew something had shifted. That calm control he always carried had cracked, and whatever was behind it was starting to surface. He ran a hand through his hair and finally spoke, his voice lower than before. "It's someone from my past. Someone I never thought I'd hear from again." I blinked, unsure of what that meant. A friend? An old flame? A secret? My thoughts started racing, and with each second of silence, the space between us felt heavier. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I wasn't sure what this new truth would do to us. He picked up the box again, his fingers brushing the edges of the worn letters. They're connected to her. To that time in my life I never wanted to bring into this marriage. I felt a chill run through me. Her. He had never mentioned anyone before. Not like this. We had shared stories, of course, past relationships, breakups, even funny memories. But this felt different. Deeper. Maybe even unfinished. "Roman," I said quietly, trying to hold on to the softness between us, "I've always trusted you. But if there's something you've been hiding, you have to tell me. We can't pretend it doesn't exist anymore." He looked at me, and for the first time in a long while, he seemed vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen since the early days of our relationship. Her name was Elena. She wasn't just someone I dated. She saved me, in a way. But she also left without warning. Disappeared. I thought she was gone forever. But now, he paused, his voice trembling just slightly, "She's back. And she knows where we live." My heart dropped. There was no anger in his words, but the weight of what he was saying was too heavy to ignore. I couldn't help but wonder, why now? Why had she come back? And what did she want from Roman, from us? Outside, the wind had picked up. A soft whistle slipped through the window cracks, and for a second, it felt like the world outside was reacting to everything happening inside this room. I stepped closer, resting my forehead gently against his chest, even though 1,000 doubts swirled in my mind. I needed to believe this was still our love story, not the beginning of someone else's. But just when I thought I had a moment of calm, he whispered, "There's something else I haven't told you." "What do you think Roman is still hiding? Could Elena's return destroy everything between them, or will it reveal something even deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you do in her place? Do you think Roman deserves forgiveness, or is there more to his story we haven't seen yet?" I pulled away just enough to look into Roman's eyes, searching for the truth I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. His hand still rested on the box of letters, and though his body was close, his mind seemed far away, somewhere tangled between memory and fear. The silence between us stretched thin, almost unbearable, like a wire pulled tight and ready to snap. I could hear my own heartbeat louder than the wind outside. "What else?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Roman hesitated, then slowly walked over to the window. He didn't open it, just stared through the glass like he was expecting someone to appear in the dark. "Elena didn't just leave," he said finally. "She disappeared because of something we were both involved in. Something dangerous." Something I promised I'd never speak about again. The weight of his words landed hard. This wasn't about an old relationship anymore. It was deeper, messier. Something I couldn't have imagined. I stepped closer, feeling a cold knot form in my stomach. Are we in danger? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned and picked up one of the letters from the box. He handed it to me. It was old, folded many times, with handwriting that looked rushed. I opened it slowly. The words inside were haunting. If you're reading this, it means I've had to run again. But this time, I'm not alone. I looked up at him, confused. She had a child? He nodded once, and my breath caught in my throat. She says the child might be mine, he said quietly. But I never knew for sure. She never told me until now. Everything tilted. The room, the past, our future, it all seemed to shift in one breath. I wanted to scream, cry, hold him, push him away, ask more, ask nothing. But I couldn't do any of it. My hands were still tied. And maybe in a strange way, it mirrored exactly how I felt inside. Bound by love, trust, confusion. Before either of us could speak again, we heard it, a knock at the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Then silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full of what's about to happen next. What would you do if someone from your partner's past came back with a secret this big? Is Roman telling the whole truth, or is there still something he's protecting? Drop your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss the climax of this intense romantic suspense. The knock echoed again, 3 steady thuds, just like before. Roman turned his head toward the door but didn't move. His body tensed, jaw tight, his eyes unreadable. I could feel the storm behind those eyes. I whispered, "Are you expecting her?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. A heavy pause filled the room, like the air had grown thicker, harder to breathe. He slowly untied the silk from my wrists, fingers gentle as ever, but his touch now carried something else, an apology, a warning, maybe both. "Stay behind me," he said softly. I nodded, even though my legs felt unsteady. Every part of me wanted to believe this was still about love, about us, but deep down, I could feel we were standing in the middle of something far more dangerous. Roman walked to the door, every step slow and calculated. I stayed by the dresser, clutching the letter. The paper felt cold now, as if the truth inside it had drained its warmth. He opened the door halfway, his body blocking my view. But I heard her voice. "Roman. You didn't answer." So I came. It was calm, too calm. Soft, with a trace of an accent. Russian, just like mine. My heart stopped. I stepped forward, unable to stay hidden. Roman didn't stop me this time. When I finally saw her, I felt like I was looking into a distorted mirror. She was beautiful, tall, sharp-featured, confident. Dressed in a black coat, wet from the rain. But what shook me most wasn't her, it was the small child standing beside her. A little boy. No older than 6. Pale skin, wide green eyes, eyes that looked like Roman's. "Elena," I breathed out, barely finding my voice. Her gaze shifted to me, cold but curious. "So, you're the wife." Roman moved between us. "This isn't the time," he said firmly. But Elena didn't back down. She handed him a folded paper. "You'll want to read this. It changes everything." He took it without opening it, then looked back at me. That same conflict in his eyes, now even deeper. "I didn't come for trouble," Elena said, eyes still on me. "But if you don't tell her the full truth, I will." There it was. The second crack. The second twist in a night already unraveling. What truth was Roman still holding back? Who was this child, really? And what was Elena threatening to expose that could break everything? I felt the cold set into my skin, and not from the rain outside. This was something else. A fear that the love I had built all these years might have been standing on a fragile lie. What do you think Elena is hiding? Could Roman have made a choice in the past that's now catching up with them both? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to follow this intense love story all the way to its breathtaking climax. Roman stood frozen, the paper from Elena still in his hand, as if opening it might split everything wide open. My eyes stayed locked on the boy. He looked up at me, then at Roman, his expression quiet but curious, like he knew he didn't fully belong here, but also somehow did. Elena stepped further inside, her voice calm but firm. You kept the letters, Roman. You knew I might come back one day. He finally opened the folded paper, scanning it quickly, and I saw something shift in his face. Shock, then confusion. He looked up at Elena, then back at me, as if trying to find ground under his feet. He's not my son, he said, voice hoarse. He's not mine. Elena nodded slowly. I never said he was. But I needed you to believe it, long enough to get you to listen. Roman's grip on the paper loosened. It fell to the floor. The boy stepped behind Elena's coat, hiding. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was manipulation. I left because I was threatened, Elena said, her eyes flicking toward me, by someone who didn't want Roman knowing the truth about what we were involved in. And now, they're watching again. I needed to draw him out, to get him to remember what he promised back then. Roman's voice cracked. You mean, the files? She nodded. They're still out there. And you're the only one who can unlock them. I stared between them, 100 pieces snapping together in my head. Roman had once been part of something far more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. But he had walked away, until now. He turned to me, eyes heavy with apology. I tried to keep it from touching our life. From touching you. I know, I whispered. But it already has. Just as we stood there, a sound pierced through the night, a single shot outside, distant but close enough to feel real. Roman grabbed my hand. Elena pulled the boy back. In that moment, all the lies, all the tension, all the love, it became survival. But just before Roman pulled us toward the back room, Elena said one last thing. By the way, the woman threatening me back then? It wasn't a stranger. It was someone close to you. The door slammed shut behind us. Who do you think betrayed Roman all those years ago? Was it someone in his family, or someone closer than we realize? Drop your guesses in the comments, and make sure to follow for the final shocking ending. Roman didn't wait. He locked the back door, pulled the curtain, and checked every window. The shot we heard never came again, but the silence afterward was louder than anything. Elena held the boy tightly, her eyes now softer, no longer hiding behind mystery. Roman paced for a moment, then picked up the paper Elena had dropped. His eyes scanned it again. It's not just about the files, he said, almost to himself. Someone used them to protect themselves. They erased everything connected to me, and to her. I stepped closer, my hand brushing his. Who do you think it was? He met my gaze, a mix of sadness and clarity in his eyes. My brother. He always said I was the one dragging the family into danger. He wanted out of that life, and he made sure I stayed out too, by pushing Elena away. That was the truth he never wanted to admit. That the threat wasn't from strangers or past mistakes. It was from family. From someone who thought they were saving him but ended up destroying more than just secrets. Elena looked at us, exhausted. I didn't come to ruin your life. I just wanted safety. For me and my son. And now they know I've come back to you, we're both targets again. We offered her a place to stay, at least until we could figure out what to do next. Roman made some calls, quiet and quick. He knew people from that past life who owed him favors. Within hours, arrangements were made. New identities. A fresh start. For Elena. For the boy. And strangely, for us too. The next morning, Roman sat beside me on the bed. The sun was finally out, soft light pouring through the curtains. "I thought I'd buried my past," he said quietly, "but you stood by me through it all. Even when you didn't have to." I touched his hand. "That's what love is, Roman. It's not just the easy parts. It's standing through the storm, and still wanting to stay." Elena left later that day with her son, quietly, without goodbyes. We didn't ask questions. Some chapters are better closed without final words. Roman and I rebuilt, slowly. With trust. With patience. We never went back to being who we were before, but we became something stronger. A love that had survived truth. And yet, some nights, when the wind picked up, I could still hear that knock at the door. Not in fear, but as a reminder of how close we came to losing everything, and how lucky we were not to. What did you think of this ending? Would you forgive someone like Roman? Should Elena return in a sequel? Let us know in the comments and share your favorite part of this love suspense story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see what happens next in this world of romance, secrets, and second chances.